Rusty
what?
Kensinger.
Rusty Kensinger. Well, how do you know this story? What did you used to do for a living?
I waved at the girls.
You waved at the girls? What is that supposed to mean?
An engineer.
An engineer? Like on what?
Train engineer, locomotive. Norfolk and Southern. I was on the Penn Central.
And I was on Conrail,
Mm-hmm.
and I was on Norfolk and Southern.
Now, what was your job on the train?
An engineer.
An engineer.
Yeah.
So that's not a conductor.
No, the conductor's on the rear end of the train with a flagman. That was original. Then they did away with the flagman. Then they did away with the front brakeman. So the only thing we had left, they moved the conductor ahead. So when a helper man couples onto a train on the rear end of a train, he's got to do the coupling and what the brakeman and the flagman used to do on the rear end. He has to do that also. And then I got couple and put the markers on and all that stuff. I mean, when I coupled to them, I had to couple to them. You got to make the knuckles cut, make sure they're coupled together. If one pin's up and you don't pitch up, sometimes the train goes away from it, it goes in emergency, then you're there to couple this up and get some air on this train so we get going. So that's what we do.
What does the conductor do?
Conductor, he takes care of the paperwork and stuff. That's it. He takes care of the paperwork for that train. He's got to know where everything is in that train. He's got paperwork to take care of. And 2 men, one for flagman on the rear end. It's a breakdown. Flagman had to go back with fusees and stuff and watch for nothing gets into us.
And you were the train driver.
Yes, that's about it.
So you pushed the start button.
You
Huh?
pulled the train along, you got out and
Yeah,
plugged it.
the throttle. Yeah.
Okay.
I got some pictures of me, big pictures some guys took on me on the train.
But they rode with him.
Yeah.
And he got his boys to ride, got permission to take each one of them.
Yeah.
Poor old Mark, he got to sit all the time. Bergen.
Jerry, both I got to go ride to Pittsburgh.
How long did you work for the railroad?
30 years.
When did you start?
1969. Well, I was on a milk truck, delivering house milk. And there's a fellow who worked in the office in Altoona that,
For the railroad.
yeah, he worked for railroad. And there's a desk across from him. The guy, they replace him quite often. He get promoted. Told me to go in, put in for the job. Well, really, I didn't want an inside job. I worked outside for all my life. But to make him happy, I put my suit on and went in, took an interview and took a test. And the guy says to me, can you type 30 words a minute? And I said, what? Can you type 30 words a minute? I said, I don't think so. Well, he said, we'll find out. He went and got an old rickety typewriter, brought out, and I had to prove to him I couldn't. So he said to me, well, will you be interested in any other job in the railroad? I said, well, yeah, whatever. So this was on Thursday. Monday, when I come home, I stopped here, by here on my route. I stopped in, she said, the railroad called and wanted to talk to you. See, she went interested in a fireman's job. What is a fireman's job? They got diesels. So I called him up and said, yes. He said, well, you have to come in for examination, physical. So this was Thursday. I waited until the next Thursday to go in because it was a short route, milk route. And I took the physical and they called me the next Monday and said, when do you want to start? Well, I had a guy out in Fredericksburg that worked for a railroad, and I thought, maybe he knows what a fireman does in the railroad. And he said, I can't help you. He said, he worked in the shops. I don't know what he did in the shops or whatever. So I worked, I gave the notice to the milk company, and time to go. I called them up, said to go, and they told me where to sign up at. So I went and signed up. Had no idea what I was getting into. But I rode around in the yard. Well, my first trip went in and come out here on the local. Now, they know I'm familiar with it because I live out here. So first day we put 16 hours in. That's the only way you made money in them days in the railroad was put the time in. So I worked here, and then I worked in fireman in the yard, and I worked firemen on the helpers with the helper men. And after 2 years, they called me up and said, you're promoted in Enola. You go to Enola to be an engineer. Well, I had to qualify over all this railroad from Harrisburg and Enola to Conway. That's remember where all the signals are, where all the towers are, all the speed limits are, where all the sidings are to put cars, all the little like South Fork and Crescent and places where they got a little railroad to run themselves. Lewistown, you got to know where the tracks are in them yards and what they are. You got to know, like South Fork, you had to pick up coal trains and stuff up there. You had to know that kind of stuff. And then you go into the man and qualify under him. He asks you questions. We have one guy that's like local chairman and I went to Pittsburgh, qualify on the Pittsburgh line. And we rode out on mail train or something the night before and come back on the passenger train the morning after and just froze our ass off. Cold down in the winter, and the steam wasn't working too good. But we both passed out there. So then we made arrangements to
What do you do when you have to test?
they asked you tests all about it railroad, about the signals, where those signals are all located, and what each signal stands for, and that all that. So we qualified from out to the Harrisburg, in the Enola yard and the Harrisburg yard. So the guy would ask us questions about all this, and one question was, when you go through the tower on this side of Harrisburg, if you get an order to go by that, and you go have it all the way through to Rockville, he said, how far do you go? Well, the guy with me said, you got a railroad to Rockville. He asked me, I said, no, west end of the bridge, there's a pot signal. You have to get permission by it, or you don't go. Right. So I don't went out and local chairman didn't even know that. But anyhow, we passed it, and then had to mark up on the board in Enola to go to work. So I worked between here and lived in Enola in the bunkhouse. So Alice was working and I was working. And I drove back and forth for about 3.5 years. Yeah.
Was never home?
Dad was working, and then Russell went to the railroad. And he'd say, yep, he said he'd run them and he'd wreck them, and I had to fix them up. He didn't.
There was a group of guys from Conway come in there one day, and they were big shots.
They knew everything. They were Booker Rules men, and they rode with me a day, and we were to Conrail, and they just changed the rowing on how we were supposed to run it into when we were pushing. There's an automatic brake valve, or the handbrake for the train. You're supposed to put it in a certain position. We always put it in a position that it cut everything out. The dead man was cut out. You didn't have the dead man going off and on all the time. And this guy went to sleep and went off in the train. Yeah. Well, I took him over to Conrail and a couple of them behind the train, and I lapped it right over like I always do. And this guy said, did you lap that way over there? I said, well, you guys in here talking, who's going to want these whistles going off there? That was the end of that. I left it be like I had it. Well, I come from Enola, or Pittsburgh into Enola one day, and coming home, I had some trouble in the car. Come on home here, and she's got supper ready. We sit down to eat, and the phone rang. You're ordered for work. I said, I can't make it. I'm 2 hours and 10 minutes away, and I'm just eating my supper. The train will be sitting here when you get here. The guy, I was about 18 times to call on the extra board when I left down there. I think 17 of them marked off. So after I was done eating, I got back in the car and drove down and got another train.
Wow.
The next time you might lay 24, 48 hours, you don't know. I laid it, and I don't remember which holiday it was. This was when I was still firing. I got an engineer here in Roaring Spring. I got on his job with him as a fireman. Now, due to the fact I'm on his job for a fireman, he lost $4 a day because I'm there. Now, we go to Conway, and the next day's a holiday, and they run out of men over there, and they come in and they asked me if I was qualified, and I said no. That run ahead, took the job out of over there, and didn't take me along. And I sat for 48 hours in Conway. For $4, I could give them the $4. I was counting the bricks on the wall over there. I was in the yard where the bunk room was over there. There was no place to go. So that's the way it was. There was good times and tough times.
Tell him your story.
Start from the beginning.
Yeah.
All right. I had 4 units and supposed to go up behind a train that was stalled east of the horseshoe curve. And when I coupled on, there was a couple cars ahead of me. They had a flat car with only single axles. They used to have it, you weren't allowed to push them cars. So I coupled on to it and pushing it, got up around the horseshoe curve. I watched that car waiting for it to jump, and it didn't jump till it got up to MG interlocking. When I hit the interlocking with that car, it jumped up in the air. Now, we were only making 10 miles an hour. The train is that heavy, but I'm only allowed to use 2 units, which I was using. And when they questioned me, they wanted to know why I used the 2 middle units. I told them I'm one man on this crew, and I know how to do it. I have the rear engine. I can push a button here and isolate it, and another switch here to cut this unit off. So that gives me 2 units and the right amount of traction motors. Well, they didn't believe this. Well, why did you do it that way? I'm one man on the crew, and I can't be running back and forth, changing power going on. And that's just the way it was. And that car jumped, and I couldn't do a thing about it. So I don't know how long this went on. Me talking on the radio with these people in Philadelphia. They knew more about my job than I did, I found out. They thought they did. So people questioned me there. It was the big shots. And finally they relieved me. So the next, I come home and even had to call them on the telephone and talk to them, trying to explain it to them, what was going on. So I come home from work, got my breakfast, went back to work the next morning. I didn't see anybody around to even talk to. I figured somebody there questioning me. Well, nobody said a word for about 2 or 3 months later. I put a set of power on the pit up at Crescent, which was to be serviced. And the young fellow come out and he said, "Are you Rusty?" And I said, "Yes, I am." He said, "You're the guy that pushed that car off down to the MG." And I said, "Yes, I did." He said, "But did he ever tell you that hauler had 4 units and they were he could have used all 4 of them and only had 2 of them on the line?" And that's why I didn't hear anything more about it. Because he didn't have all his power on the line and I wasn't allowed to have all mine. So that's it. I never heard anything, no apologies. The way they chewed me out on the radio and the phone, terrible. That's Norfolk and Southern. Amen.
Amen.
You say units, what's that mean?
That's each engine.
Okay.
He had 4 engines and I had 4 units, but I can only use 2 of mine because they're 6-axle engines and he only had 4-axle engines. I have 4 units and I can, there's a box here that I can isolate the 2, 3 last units if I want to. Well, I unleashed cut the rear end off, and there's a switch up here to isolate the one I'm on. So that let me 2 units in the middle to push the train, which should have pushed us well if the other guy was doing his part. But he wasn't doing his part. He had 4 units, but they were small units, and he could use all 4 of them. So he was wrong, but nobody would tell me that I was right. Hey, good story, but no thanks. That's the way it was.
And that's the most exciting part of your career?
Oh no, I've got I got some I can't talk about. Derails. What are you talking about? Yeah, we've South Fork have pushed 4 or 5 cars off the track, and they never did find out why they went off. And when they went off, I saw them because I'm on the rear end. So I put the train in emergency rather than let that hauler haul it up, the trains up to an interlocking and tear it all thunder. So the big shots showed up, and they were investigating everything. And a big shot from up in Clearfield, he over all this whole area here, just growing up on my engine. I heard him say, "Get all the information off that engineer up there. He's in trouble." He got a drawbar, and he come back, got on my engine. I said, "Hold it. He's not in trouble. I put this train in emergency." "Well, what'd you do that for?" "Did you want me to shove him up through that interlocking and tear it all up?" He got off the engine, and that's the last I saw of him. That's the way it goes. You had to stick up for yourself. The car lifted up off the track and then derailed. And that put the train in emergency.
What does that mean when you put it in emergency?
All the brakes that fly on the whole train.
Oh, okay.
And they set up around the bend, some of them bends. Some of the trains had the wheels all up off the outside the rail because it's pulling up. It's put all up, and they were doing what they were going to do, but they set back down.
Was it scary?
I wasn't there. I was long gone. I don't care if it's scary or not. No, it wouldn't have been.
Did you ever have a train that you were scared on?
Well, I wasn't the conductor.
Oh.
I didn't. That's another guy's job.
Oh, okay.
Well, a couple winters ago, we had a bad winter, and they sent me down to South Fork. We had a coal train that has 2 units on the head end and 2 units on the rear end. And I didn't know why I was coupling onto it. They had enough power to get it up the hill. So the front brakeman, after coupling me onto the train, came up and I said, "What's going on?" He said, "We can't get enough air on the rear end to take this train down the mountain. The coal train, you have 100 pounds of air in the train line. And if you have 85, you can go over the top of the mountain. But it's only 15-pound difference can it be. Well, this was 35-pound difference. And they thought, I don't know why they thought I could pump it up when the other guy couldn't pump it up. But I had 4 units to do it with. So we're coming up the hill, and the rear guy reports 65 pounds, 65 pounds. And I knew what they're going to do. So finally, the signals went up. That means I go. It's actually real illegal to go with 65 pounds. So I said to this front brakeman, "Hang on, we're going." And going through the tunnel up there, I told him, "I'm going to put the brake on the train so we can get some of the snow off the wind." There was about 1.5 feet of snow. And I put the brake on the train and tried to get things warmed up, maybe melt some of the snow and stuff off the tracks. And after I got out of the tunnel, I said, "What's your speed back there?" 18 miles an hour. I said, "That's great. Freight trains like that, or coal train, 15 mile an hour is what the speed is supposed to be, not over 15. But I had to wheel more extra pound on them, and you can't mess up. If you get too much, you're going to stall, and if you don't get enough, it's going to run away from you. So I got it. I didn't use the brake like you usually do. There's one here a little finer, and I put that sucker on where I wanted it, and we went down the hill, 18 mile an hour, and come around the horseshoe curve. The fires just fly off the engine brakes because I got brakes on. And the guy on the rear, or the helper with me, the hauler, he said, "Rusty, your brakes are smoking." I said, "I hope so." And a little further away, I felt going clunk, 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 clunk. My wheels were too hot. So I called them down to Altoona. I said, when I come down, they have to check my engine's wheels to see how they are. I took it down and told the guy at Altoona, open up the railroad down there. I don't know where it's going to stop when I have to knock the brake off of it because I have to do that. So they lined me up to Annis, and I said, okay. Well, I knocked the brake off and took it right down and stopped at where it's supposed to be at Rose Tower. And the guys were there to check my engines, and I pulled them up, and the guy came up, he said, "My God, Rusty, what were you doing?" He said, "Everything's blue down there. They're that hot. Everything. You don't want to get near it." He said, "But there's just build up tread." He said, "It's not flat wheels or anything." So I went back down to Annis, and they switched me back over to Conrail. And going over, I set the brake up a little bit on the power and put sand on the tracks. So I got to Conrail. There was no build-up tread. They worked just as smooth as it was and went up the first time.
What's build-up tread?
Why, the brake shoes melt. Gets so hot that they build up on the wheel. The wheel has the tread. That's the tread.
A wheel has tread?
Well, it's got your wheels are sloped to go around curves and stuff, and it's a soft metal, and it's called a tread.
Okay.
Yeah. You slide the wheels, you get a flat spot real quick. But yeah, that's what you got into. So now, after this is all over, nobody said a word about what job you did or how you do it. Good job, get that. Somebody, if they got the train stopped on the mountain, those boys have been out there walking that train and time on handbrakes. Got it down with no trouble at all. So then, going to work one morning, some guy come in, hit me in the shoulder like this. I said, "What's that for?" He said, "You saved my ass the other day." I said, "What do you mean? I didn't work with you." He said, "Up the mountain." He said, "They took me up there to cut that train in half. He was going to bring it down in 2 pieces." He said, "I told him to give you the signal and you'd take it down." He headed back down. Oh, yeah.
What happened to time you got stuck in the tunnel at Pittsburgh and crashed it?
Yeah. Well, they put me on the train that was really long. The head end had more than enough power to take the train up because he's not allowed to. So going through the tunnel, you're going so slow, it built up fumes so bad in there. Fire just flew through the tunnel. And it all that, I think 5-6 inches, all of them went down.
What is it?
They died.
Fire?
Yeah, fire from the fumes. Fire made fire.
Inside the...
Inside the tunnel.
Just like, was it like a ball of fire?
Yeah, it's black soot. We walked out of the tunnel, we looked like, and we couldn't see to get out. We had to get up next to the rail to find our way out because we couldn't see. And we walked out of the tunnel maybe 200 feet before we could even see daylight because of the stuff coming out of the tunnel. Well, that was one of them with the coal train. With the coal train, that's you're not allowed to tell that one.
Okay.
But no.
So when you say fire online, does that mean you started up the engine that you weren't supposed to?
No, this one didn't have that. He had them, but he wouldn't put one on the line for me.
Oh, okay.
And we didn't have the power to get it through the line fast enough. We crawled through the tunnel and built up fire or carbon in the air, and it caused an explosion.
I don't know how they weren't dead. breathing that crap and
Yep.
not seeing nothing, can't see the.
Yeah, how did they survive?
We had to walk out through the tunnel about halfway through it. That's a long ways out.
Did you run?
No, you couldn't run. You don't know where you're walking on. You had to keep close to the rails, between the rails. You didn't know which way you were going. It's black always.
And it was because your load was too heavy?
Yeah, I mean, we weren't going fast enough to get through the tunnel. And the engines just built up the carbon in the, and exploded.
Nothing to burn. Ooh,
Yep.
my goodness.
So the fire was behind you?
It flew out in the front of us.
Oh, in front of you.
Yeah, shot out in the front of us. Fire.
And so when you got out walking, you went the other direction?
No, I'd have to walk further, and I had to walk beside the train, and that would be no
So
good.
you walked through the fire?
The fire was going. It made everything black.
Oh, okay. So the
Yeah.
explosion kind of
But can you imagine what your lungs
Yep.
would feel like? Did they make us go to the hospital?
They took us to the hospital and examined. And I wasn't supposed to go to work the next morning, but I did. That's two. I was the only one out of the whole crew in the front that did. I think one guy took 3 days off.
Oh, so scary.
They wouldn't.
No, my boss in Altoona one day run on to me and said, "Hey, you did go to work the next day, didn't you?" And I said, "Yes." That's all there was to it. So now that happened that day. Maybe a week or so later, a couple had in the same train, and they had 3 units on the line, and I only had 2. So we're down to 10 mile an hour going up the mountain, and I called the dispatcher. I said, "We're only making 10 mile an hour, and I just did not too long ago, I got fired out in the tunnel with everything going down to my engines. He got another engine back there to put on the line. Permission granted to put it on the line. No action at all." So I said, "Put that engine on the line." He put it on the line, and we crawled through the tunnel with no trouble at all. So a couple of days later, I'm out there working, and they called me on the phone. "Hey, Rusty, how'd you do with that engine that day that you said you wanted to run the line?" I said, "Put it on the line." And that was it. We had an extra engine on the line we weren't allowed to have.
Why?
Too much power, you pull the train apart.
Okay.
That's what happens. All you have to have is one loose knuckle, and there's 2 knuckles in every train. Count for 120 cars, how many knuckles could be broke? Just one's all you need. Sometime before I retired, after Norfolk took over, he told me the night before I'd have riders the next day. Well, so I go to work, go in and get stuff all ready. There's nobody around there but me and the clerks. I go out and get in the engine, told the operator I'm ready to go. He set the signal up, and away I go. So I went down to Annis, and then I went over to Conrail. I can't see. So a couple of days later, road foreman run on to me, and he said, "Rusty," he said, "today there'll be 2 riders riding with you, and do not leave the yard without them." So I waited for the guys to come with me. So I took them over to Conrail. I think we took a train over and brought one back, and they're gibbering. So when we get off the train in Altoona, I'm getting a recruit. They want to get me a statement of what I think of Norfolk and Southern. And I couldn't even give them a statement. If they'd have told me earlier that they were going to question me, and they had all them statements on television, I might have given something. I didn't give it. I said, I have no idea in the world what to say.
What was it
And I-
before Norfolk and Southern?
Huh?
What was it called before Norfolk and Southern?
Conrail.
Oh, Conrail. Okay.
Yeah. That's the last I heard of that. Yeah. Well, PRR started, and then it was New York. I forget what the initials was. New York and Pennsylvania Railroad. Yeah. And then the Conrail. Conrail in '76.
And then Norfolk and Southern when?
June of '99.
And when did you work there last?
December '99. The day I got 60 in, that was the day I walked off.